Salutations, readers. Welcome to or welcome back to the Studio Girl Writer channel. My name is Nkechi, and for today, I'll pretty much talk about all the books that I read in the month of April. So, April was actually another unexpected reading month, but in the best way. So it's not quite unexpected like last month, because last month I read a lot more books than I'm used to, but this past month, I've actually read a less than the amount of books I've been reading so far this year. So I have read less books, but the quality is actually the best so far this year. So honestly, I have very little to complain. Let's actually just get to the stats. I can just gush about how good of a reading month this was. And I'll be relying here on this handy dandy journal here. So if you see me looking down, it's because of this. So first up, I read 7 books in April with 2,220 pages. Out of those pages, 57% were printed. So I think 4 of the 7 books were read physically. And then 43% was audio. And my average rating was actually 4.39 stars, which is really, really good. I do wish I read a little bit more, but honestly, it is what it is, life be happening. So it don't really matter for me now. But anyways, let's pretty much get on to the books that I read in April. So first up, we have Tripping Arcadia by Kit Mayquist. This is a modern gothic novel that's also a little bit of a thriller, also is queer too because the main character, Lena, is bisexual. I'm not really going to get too much into the synopses of these books because honestly, despite the fact that I have read these books, I don't quite know how to explain these books without quite spoiling it. So I'm kind of just go with the review and then talk the thoughts, okay? So I give this 4.5 stars for multiple reasons. First of all, for the positives, this is really good in the modern gothic horror sense because the explanations of the botany and the poisons in here in order to for the main character Lena, who pretty much actually kind of starts off with working with this elite family in Boston because she's going through some financial struggles, especially with her family as well. So that's why she's going to work with this elite family. But the elite family is the reason why she's having financial struggles. So she's like, time for revenge. And I love the use of the poison. I also love how the author had really good writing style. This is actually a debut novel. It came out last year. And I'm just more people should check this out. If you're here for gothic book with a bisexual protagonist, there's also actually a development of a sapphic relationship in here as well, and it also has a revenge plot in here. And you want some good writing? I'm just saying, y'all, Tripping Arcadia is it. Yeah, I pretty much just really enjoy it. The only reason why it's not really a 5-star for me is because the reveals of a lot of some of the plot elements in here happen very, very quickly and all at once, because this is also a thriller as well, so it's a gothic thriller. And I did like the fact that it is kind of like a thriller, but the way that the reveals kind of came out was very, very fast and really rapid fire for me. That was okay, that's a lot. So honestly, but then again, it's also because I'm not really well versed into thrillers. Thrillers is not really my favorite genre, but because it was gothic fiction, I could honestly care less about that. So good time, definitely recommend it. Please, I want more people to read this. I think a lot of people would definitely enjoy this. If y'all, just pick it up. Just saying. And also, I actually originally borrowed it from the library too, and I just got my own copy because I enjoyed the book so much. Now, the next 4-ish books I'm going to talk about, 4 or 5 books I'm going to talk about, is actually books I've already talked about in my reading vlog where I write 100 pages a day for a week. So this is kind of a little bit rehashing, but honestly, it don't really matter because I just want to talk about these books again. And one of the books that I read for that vlog was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is a Edgar Allan Poe retelling of the fall of the House of Usher. We have a main character, we have a protagonist who is non-binary, which honestly I did not know about until I actually read it. So that was actually a pleasant surprise. This book was so good. I give this actually novella 5 stars. It was so good, so enticing. I love the writing. I love the description of the fungi. I think that's honestly like one of the best things about this novella is the descriptions of the fungi. Because look at this here. You see this pink stuff here? This is the fungi that you will be reading about. And there's actually, hold up, let me actually find there was a section on here that had a really, really gross description of something. What was it? Okay. All right. So this is just a quick description of like the fungi. And then if you touch it, like what it smelled like. Y'all need to actually hear this because, oh, was this disgusting. It was a very light tap indeed, but the mushroom's cap immediately bruised the same visceral red violet as the gills. A moment later, we were struck by an indescribable smell, rotting flesh with a tongue-coating glaze of spoiled milk and, rather horribly, an undertone of fresh baked bread. It wiped out any sweetness to the air and made my stomach lurch. If that does not sound disgusting, gross, and even horrifying, I don't know what to tell you. Because when I read that sentence, I was like, that is disgusting. Like, that is nasty. And I just kept reading because I was like, ooh, I want to know more. I want to read more. And y'all, it was so good. I read it in like 12 hours and it was so good. But yes, please, I need more people to read this book. I know this book like came out last year and I remember seeing some people loving it, some people not really loving it, but I'm like, y'all, more people, please read this. If you love horror and if you like gothic fiction, and also though you love novellas and retellings, this is it for you, okay? Like, it's like its own full story. It was perfect the way it is. 5 stars, favorite of the month. I'm here for it. And also, as I'm recording, pretty much recently, I think it was like a few days ago as I'm recording, this book, T. Kingfisher, said that there is going to be a sequel. In fact, the author actually had wrote a sequel that was actually written originally as a book 3. So Kingfisher had to go back and write a second book. So Tankspeaking is going to be a trilogy. This, we're going to be following, we're going to see Alex again. We're going to be seeing Alex again in a sequel called What Feasts at Night. This sequel comes out March 2024. And I am so going to pre-order that book when it gets closer to a release date. That's like an anticipating 2024 title for me. I know that's like months away from now, but like, I am pre-ordering the sequel because, yes, more gothic horror in the same world by T. Kingfisher. I am so here for it. So I'm having a great time. And honestly, I was actually pretty surprised at how much I really loved it. I knew I was going to like it, but I had no idea I was going to love it. And also another thing I kind of love for me is how surprised I actually enjoyed this next book that I also read in that vlog called One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. Now this is a contemporary fantasy twist to Romeo and Juliet with witchcraft and Russian mythology set in modern-day Manhattan. So we have rivaling families, just very much like Romeo and Juliet. We have the Antonovas, we have the Fedorovs, who are rivaling witch families, and they kind of like rivals in the sense of like business practice, I think. And just, I think, a little bit of a personal history as well. And yeah, we even have like 2 sets of like a Romeo and Juliet pairing. Like the eldest Antonova sister had like a relationship with like the eldest Fedorov brother, and then the youngest Antonova sister had a relationship with the youngest Fedorov brother. So it was kind of interesting seeing the parallel between those two pairings, and like comparing that also with like what I remember of Romeo and Juliet. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I genuinely am surprised that I actually liked it because I did not like Olivia Blake's The Atlas Six. I did not like that one. I also have not read Alone with You in the Ether either because I just really wanted to avoid Olivia Blake's books. But something about One for My Enemy made me think like, I think this is the book you can actually give this author a second chance. Because I really did want to give her a second chance. But I was like, I don't know what story that will really work with me and her writing style. Because that's honestly the main thing I didn't like with The Atlas Six was her writing style for that story. And also a bunch of other stuff. But it was the main thing was her writing style. But the writing style in here is definitely a lot more, I want to say approachable. Maybe tolerable for me. I think tolerable is the best word for it. because it's not as convoluted as the Atlas 6 in my personal opinion, and it's not as pretentious either. It's very much less pretentious because it's not dark academia. So I just had a better time with these characters as well, even though I feel like the number of Antonova sisters was just kind of, I feel like it was just a way to like explain a couple things here and there that happened in the plot that I'm just like, yeah, I feel like this is more of just convenience to having that many sisters. Like, there's actually 7 Antonova sisters and there's 3 Fedorov brothers. So I was just like, and we only really mainly focused on like the oldest and the youngest of the Antonova sisters. At least for the Fedorov brothers, we focused on all 3 of them. The Antonova sisters, because there are 7 of them, we really only mainly focused on the 2. The oldest and the youngest. The ones in the middle, I cannot tell you for the life of me. Names, who's older than who, I can't tell you nothing about nobody. They existed in the novel, but like, I can't tell you anything about them. Which I'm just like, again, which is why I feel like they're just there as convenience for a couple of things that happen in the plot. So I'm just like, And I'm also not quite totally sure on the Russian mythology part. I think it's some stuff regarding like, because the matriarch of the Antonovas is nicknamed as Baba Yaga, which I do know is very much a tie-in to Russian mythology. I'm not really familiar with it though. And then the patriarch of the Fedorovs is supposed to be, what was his, I forgot what his nickname was. I'd honestly completely forgot. So yeah, it's something regarding with Russian mythology. I'm not really familiar with it, and I don't remember too much either of like Romeo and Juliet too much based on like the actual original play. But based on remember, I feel like it's very different as far as the plot structure, because I think the structure of it is definitely different than what I'm used to. Honestly, I think it was really, really good. I recommend it. It's 3.5 stars, so it's good. Not something spectacular, but at least not terrible or something that really made me angry. So I'm happy about that. I really am. But again, thank you to Tor Books and Macmillan Audio for the advanced listening copy. And if y'all want to know some more thoughts on this, I also have a dedicated review on Instagram that y'all can look at. Now, a book that I started to read and mostly read in that reading vlog, but I didn't actually finish this book in that reading vlog, was Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series. This is pretty much actually the book that was not supposed to be its own book, because originally, Nona the Ninth, as thick of a book that it is, in all these annotations, this was supposed to be part 1 of Alecto the Ninth, which is supposed to be the final book of the series, because Act 1, the first part of Alecto the Ninth, was so long and so much info needed to be put in there that, like, it was just too long to be put into one book. Honestly, I'm so glad that Tamsin Muir split Nona and Alecto in, like, 2 separate books, because I'm actually very happy. Let's see, what can I talk about this that isn't going to be spoiling? Well, first off, general thoughts and opinions and ratings. Rating, 4.5 stars. I really did enjoy Nona. Nona as a character, I really enjoyed. The book, I honestly had to sit down and really think about what I actually felt about this, because I think I just had a lot of thoughts when I finished the book. Mostly because, like, it clearly is a setup. It really does, like, to set up what's going to happen on Alecto the Ninth. That, like, I wasn't sure if that meant that this was going to be a really good installment, because when you do read it, I was very much confused. Just like the other books. But, like, I felt even more confused than Harrow, which is surprising, because narratively, Harrow is definitely more confusing than Nona, as far as his narrative structure. But Nona felt more confusing because of the fact that we're pretty much introduced to a whole new character that I had no idea where she came from. And the whole point of the book was to figure out who the hell Nona is. That was the entire plot of this book. Like, who is Nona? How did she get here? Where is Gideon? Where is Harrow? That's pretty much the entire plot of this book. And I'm just like, okay. And when I finished the book, I pretty much had a Locked Tomb series brain rot. And what I mean is that I started searching up explanations, theories, Tumblr posts, Reddit threads, author interviews on this series, because there's just a lot I really want to say that I can't, because it will spoil the entire series. All these thoughts I have, all these theories for the final book, the final installment. But for anyone who has already read this series, I have enjoyed it. it is definitely a book that I had to really sit with even longer than like Gideon or even Harrow to really understand, especially when we don't have Electo yet. So yeah, I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts, but I don't know. All I know is that I really did love Nona. I really liked Nona as a character. She was very much childlike since she doesn't know who she is either. So she does give a very much childlike and a slight little bit of naivete, but like not naive in the sense that's annoying. Like she very much likes to question the world. She also just loves everyone. She's so full of heart and love, and that's honestly something that I also really appreciate about this book too, is regarding love and relationships, not just romantically, but like platonically, familial, and just bonding of other people. We also get a little bit more explanation on the world here, especially in the sense of the world that's outside of the 9 houses, which was something that I was not privy to. Like, I was like, wait, so we're not going to be in the houses at all? Even though we did reference the houses, but like, again, like Tamsin Muir writes, pretty much convoluted in the sense of like there's like a lot of references to other characters that we have already introduced in Gideon and Harrow the Ninth, but they use different names. And I'm just like, okay. Like, yeah, I don't know, y'all. Like, I don't know what else to say besides the fact that I really did enjoy this. And I've tabbed it like hell because, like, there was just so much I had to, like, make sure I kept track of. And now I'm just like, yeah, this series is going to get its own review because, like, I have too many thoughts. And after reading Nona, I also just needed, like, something quick and easy to read after that whole thing. But a book, though, that I did also read that actually is also an anticipated release as well, that I actually read in the same month it came out, look at me, was Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. So this is Fonda Lee's novella past the Greenbone Saga. And I have briefly talked about it a little bit because I only started it in that same reading vlog. But this one is like an epic fantasy novella that I think is also kind of like a fable, I think. Where we follow Esther, who becomes a rocker, which is the kind of the people that train big birds of prey called a rock. And rocks kill manticores, because manticores kill humans. So they need humans to train with rocks in order to hunt down manticores. And yeah, this was a really, really good book. I actually really loved it more than I actually thought I would. It took me a little while to start really loving it because, like, I was enjoying it because, again, it's Fonda Lee. The writing style is also, it's interesting because the writing style in this novella it does remind me of Fonda Lee, but it also doesn't in the same sense. Because, again, this is a different story than the Greenbone Saga, which is what I'm used to reading from Fonda Lee. But because this is a different story, and this is shorter, too, and it's with characters that I'm not familiar with, it took me a little bit longer to really start to, like, love this story. Like, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't loving it. You know, it was, like, giving me a solid 4 stars. But my rating ended up being a 4.75. It was not a 5-star read because it's not really something I see Fonda Lee with, like, that I would consider like a complete favorite, but it's a very, very good novella. I loved her writing. I actually love the narrative structure, which is very much like it's in first person, but we're also in the head of our protagonist Esther, but we're not quite like in the head of her in the sense that I'm used to in the Greenbone Saga, where like I could know every single one of her thoughts, because her thoughts are very much thinking on this bird of prey here, the rock, which honestly, I'm not really someone who likes training with or being even around birds of prey because they honestly terrify me, especially with something like a rock. Like, they're huge, like they're big birds, okay? Very, very big birds. But it was so interesting to, like, learn more about how the rockers will train and take care of and care for these rocks in a way that's kind of a little bit obsessive, because you're training with these rocks and you're afraid of them, but also you're enamored by them. You kind of obsess and you praise them, you love them because of how frightening and beautiful they are. And honestly, I really love that. I was like, huh. I think Fonda Lee had to, like, do a little bit of research, and I had to talk to people, like, how to do a falconry, which is very much, like, the process of a lot of this book is pretty much on that research on the falconry side, which is something I was not privy to. I don't know anything about falconry, but to see this character, Esther, really training and focusing so hard on, like, taking care of this rock, with the possibility that this rock could end up killing her, abandoning her, pretty much taking away her hope and desire to also avenge her family because the Manticores actually killed her family. So she became a rocker to also like really find that one Manticore that killed her family and to literally destroy it. And this was actually it was just really, really good. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. I feel like whenever I really love a book, I don't really have too much to say because like the story did what it told to do. It literally gave what it was given. So like, I don't know what else for me to say. What is there for me to say? I recommend people to read this. And hopefully y'all will love it or at least enjoy it. But let's get into some other stuff that I did not read or start reading in that reading vlog. First up, we have Finding Me by Viola Davis. This one, I was mostly reading in one of my reading sprints as well. But this one I was actually reading via audio. Now this is a memoir of Viola Davis. She talks about her this is pretty much very much autobiographical. So it talks about her childhood, her young adulthood, her career, life, love, all the things. And y'all, this was a heavy read, okay? Like, I gave the audiobook 5 stars because, first of all, know this, y'all. Viola Davis she's an EGOT winner. If you don't know what EGOT means, it means Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony winner. Okay? She got EGOT status because she won the Grammy for her audiobook, her narration of Finding Me. She narrates her own memoir, and it won a Grammy. I mean, I don't know what to say. What is there to say? I mean, EGOT status for an audiobook? I didn't know you could do that, but Viola did that. Mrs. Davis did that. Okay, she did that. And I felt like, what should I read more? Like, y'all, this memoir has a grocery list long of content warnings. Know that going in. There is a lot of content warnings going through it. To the point that I actually had to write down in a separate sticky note here of all the content warnings. Like, I'm not kidding, y'all. Those are the content warnings. There's a lot. Let me just list just a few of them for sure. That's very much graphic. Domestic abuse is very much graphic. Verbal and physical domestic abuse in there. There's child abuse, specifically physical and sexual child abuse there. So that has like sexual assault, sexual harassment, rapists in there. There's bullying, misogyny, racism, racial slurs, alcoholism, animal death, incest, death of a parent. There's a lot. There is a lot of content warnings and trigger warnings. So even though I do recommend this memoir, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. The first half honestly just made me be like, oh gosh, this was a lot. Even though I did read this in like 3 days, it was just a lot. Like, I wanted to finish quickly because I didn't want to sit with this memoir in my head in the audiobook for it's too long. Okay? Like, it's so good, but also it's pretty heavy. The first half really made it feel very heavy. And then the second half, we got some more lighter notes when we start talking more about her career and how she met her current husband. There's just a lot here. And I really like the parts when we get to Viola was really being reflective on like how she knows that at the time, she had a lot of unchecked, undiagnosed trauma, PTSD, and like how she really has a lot of love and compassion. And I think that is really, really good for her as far as like all the stuff that she's went through to find peace, to find love and compassion. I really am glad that this woman got a Grammy Award for her narration of her memoir. I'm telling y'all, please pick it up. This is one of these celebrity memoirs that honestly a lot more people need to read. Y'all just need to read it. And trust me, please read it. Okay, now the final book that I read in the month of April to kind of lighten up that heavy of a read, just for me to like read something, because I was kind of feeling a little bit like a slump towards the final few days of the month, because I wasn't sure what to read after reading that memoir. But I finally read a book that honestly was recommended to me by a friend of mine, and that was GANGSTA Volume 1. This was recommended to me by Haryana Hook from, Haryana Hook here on YouTube and on Instagram and things. And this is a seinen crime mystery manga series. And if you do not know what seinen is, or you're not familiar with manga genres, seinen is pretty much the manga genre that caters or targets towards adult men. So it's kind of like shonen, except that shonen is for young boys, and then seinen is for like adult men. Shoujo is for young girls, young women, and then josei is for adult women. Now this one follows two guys named Warwick and Nick. So this is Nick here on the front, and if you look in the back, we see Warwick here as well. So this manga series is pretty much set in like a fictional city, and we have the handyman, again, Nick and Warwick, who work with kind of like the police to do like very dirty jobs, you know, like the kind of jobs that like the police do not want to handle. I think there's like they go on a mission or something. Again, I'm not totally... even though I literally read it like a few days ago, I'm not totally sure how to like describe the synopsis, because like it's kind of a lot going on in this volume here. Like, we're introduced to these two characters, but we don't get too much backstory on them. Then again, it is only the first volume, and also there's not a lot of volumes in this series. There's only like 8 volumes, so I don't know if the manga series is necessarily complete in the sense of like the actual story is done and there's no more, or is a sense of like, oh, we just stopped making more volumes. So I am going to continue this. I did rate this 3.5 stars. I don't think it's completely spectacular even for a first volume of a manga series, but I think this is actually a pretty good read. Although I will have to say, content warning on sexual and gun violence. Like, there's sexual violence, sexual harassment, gun violence is in here as well. And there is also sexual content in here. It's not very graphic, but it's not minor either. Like, it's there, but it's not too graphic. But honestly, despite how messed up of a story this is between the very much dark tone here, I did enjoy this. I actually really do like Nick and Warwick. And then also we have another main character named Alex. She's not on this particular cover, because honestly, she is the first character we're kind of like introducing this, but I feel like in future volumes, we're going to get more of her and more of her backstory, because I don't know too much about her, except for how she meets these two guys, so can't really say too much, but I am indeed intrigued to see what happens in volume 2, because I think volume 2, we might get some more backstory on these two guys, and then hopefully, as well, we get more backstory on Alex. I'm just really curious about these 3 characters here. Our 3 main characters a little bit. And also, it's also a 3.5 star because I didn't understand the world here. There's some aspects of the world that I'm like, I don't understand. This is not fully explained here. But again, this is a manga series, so the first volume is just a starting point. So I'll just wait and see until we get to volume 2 and then see from there. But yeah, that's pretty much all the books that I read in the month of April. I will have to say, a lot. Towards the end of the month, I was just like, yeah, we need a palate cleanser. But anyways, here are all the books, plus one from Anime by Alvy Blake as well, that I read in the month of April. So pretty much, honestly, again, like I said, quality over quantity. Not a lot of books, but pretty good reads. Despite the fact that One for My Enemy and GANGSTA are the lowest rated books, they're by no means terrible books. These are books that I honestly, and manga as well, that I would generally recommend to people. And if you like it, I do recommend it. I recommend all these books on here, including One for My Enemy as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So please like this video if you like this video. Subscribe. Make sure you click on the little bell thingy so y'all can be notified when I upload next and some reading sprints. Comment down below. Have y'all read any of these books? Are y'all interested in any of these books to read or to add in your TBR? What have y'all read for the month of April as well? Any favorites? Any terrible books, like books that you won't recommend to people? And if you want to comment something but not sure what to comment on, comment down below a heart emoji in honor of Nona the Ninth and Finding Me. And yeah, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, afternoon, evening, night, whenever y'all are watching this, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye!